Do you know the story of Reverend Batman? Hello again, Bat fans! In this episode we check out the graphic novel called Batman: Holy Terror. It is quite important in the history of DC Comics, as it's the first graphic novel under the Elseworlds brand. After the success of Gotham by Gaslight in 1989, DC realized the potential of stories that take place outside of continuity or in alternate universes. Following the example of Gotham by Gaslight, DC published Batman: Holy Terror. The cover features some amazing art, with Batman looking like some kind of armored knight, while holding a modified version of the US flag. Instead of the stars, the flag features a cross, which suggests that this story has something to do with religion. Indeed, the story is set in the 17th century, and the USA is a completely religious nation. Society as a whole is built upon the belief of God. The story begins with the murder of the Waynes, a tragic incident that leaves young Bruce Wayne alone in the world. Inquisitor Gordon tries to find the killer, but the Commissioner prevents him to investigate anything about it. 20 years later, Bruce Wayne is ready to take a big step in his life. He will leave Wayne Manor in order to take his vows as a reverend in the Church of God. Alfred leaves Bruce, as he will no longer be needed, and Bruce gets ready to leave his house for good. That is until Jim Gordon visits him and tells him the truth about his parents' deaths. They were killed by a man called Joe Chill, an assassin hired by important people to eliminate the Waynes. Jim Gordon reveals that Thomas and Martha Wayne were working against the institutionalized religion in order to free the estate from all theocracy. They were deemed as traitors, and they were killed. Thomas and Martha Wayne believed in science, technology, and democracy, and for that, they were eliminated. The truth shakes Bruce to the core, and all his beliefs are shattered. Regardless, he takes his vows and becomes Reverend Bruce Wayne. However, he still needs another mantle to make justice for the past crimes. Using the cave underneath Wayne Manor as a base of operations, Bruce takes up another mantle that he will use to avenge the murder of his parents. Batman seeks out one of the people responsible for hiring Joe Chill and interrogates the man about the motives for the crime. The man reveals that the Waynes were a threat to a bigger secret that would destroy the religious foundations of Gotham. With this information, Bruce Wayne goes to the main cathedral, where the Court of Star Chamber often reunites. He seeks to find the man responsible for killing his parents, but he finds much more than that. After infiltrating the building, Bruce finds a secret detention area where he meets a man capable of amazing speed. His name is Barry Allen, and he used to be a scientist for Star Chamber. After the accident that gave him his powers, he was locked inside a special cell, and ever since the Church has tried to replicate his powers and use them in their mission. Batman helps Barry escape, and they attempt to leave the detention area. They come across several other metahumans, locked in cages to study. One of them is a man who can breathe underwater. His name is Arthur, but his mind has been broken by the experiments. Like him, several other test subjects have been damaged in the name of religion. As Barry and Batman try to escape, they are attacked by a powerful woman who can cast spells by speaking backwards. She realized there was no chance of fighting the system, so she has joined them instead. Batman uses knockout gas and defeats the witch, but shortly after that, Reverend Airedale, the man in charge of the whole detention area, shows up and bursts Barry into flames using a remote control. Batman tries to fight him, but he is overpowered by a man whose body is entirely made of clay. His name is Matthew, and he serves Airedale. The Reverend is curious about Batman and what powers he may have. Airedale takes Batman on a tour through the place and tells him how the Church has dealt with the threat of superpowered beings and metahumans. Airedale takes Batman to a chamber where they hold the most powerful specimen, someone that they call the Green Man. Airedale explains how he was found in a spacecraft in Kansas and how he was turned in by a God-fearing couple. Erdel studied the Green Man and tried to keep him locked, but as he grew up, he became stronger. Erdel had to eliminate the man, using rocks found near the spaceship in which he had arrived to Earth. Batman doesn't know the man crucified in front of him, but he knows that the church has done a terrible mistake. Batman fights the clayman called Hagen, and using some chemicals from the laboratory, he freezes and destroys the man made of clay. Reverend Erdel tries to shoot Batman, but the Dark Knight takes cover behind the body of the crucified man, and the bullets ricochet back to Erdel. Finally, Batman finds the oldest magistrate inside the chamber and interrogates him about the murder of the Waynes. The man explains that such executions are decided by anonymous voting among 12 magistrates, so that no man feels responsible for taking a life. It is then that Bruce understands that he has to fight, not to find one man, but to destroy a system that has corrupted the state in the name of God. Bruce Wayne will continue his life as a reverend of the church during the day, but he will wear the dark vestments of Batman during the night, and he will fight against oppression and tyranny in the memory of his parents. Holy Terror is one of those stories that sounds extremely good as a concept, but once you actually see it, you realize it's not that good. The story was written by Alan Brennard, who at this point was a veteran comic book writer. Alan Brennard did a couple of short Batman stories in the Bronze Age, and all of them are incredibly good. Most of them involve the Batman of Earth too, and his interaction with other heroes of that universe. He had a lot of potential to become a regular Batman writer, but apparently he was never interested. Instead, he came up with this alternate universe to tell a Batman story, and I'm not sure that it works entirely. The world Brennard tried to create is really hard to believe. The idea that a society can develop entirely on religion is not feasible in a world like ours, where money and technology are the driving forces. In order to make this world believable, Brennard tried to push the concept that society was stagnated as a result of religious fanatics. It would make sense if it wasn't for the fact that there are such things as computers, elevators, remote controls, and really just a large amounts of technology and science. The buildings have old Gothic architecture, and people use wigs like in the 17th century, but they also know how to operate machines. As I said, it's really hard to believe. Now that was just a minor complaint about the world building, because the storytelling itself, it's also quite complicated. When I first read this story, I was already on page 15 and still didn't understand where it was all going. The premise of the story is that in this world, Bruce Wayne is a priest by day and Batman by night. But really, this concept takes too long to be clear in the story. Batman's motivations are also a bit weak. Think about it. For 20 years, Bruce Wayne believed that what happened with his parents was an accident, and he was almost happy. But soon he learned the truth. He learned that the Waynes were opposed to a state controlled by religion, and that's why they were killed. And then, all of a sudden, Bruce has a great need to avenge their deaths. The point is that in the normal continuity, Bruce swore to fight all crime on the same night that his parents were killed, and he spent his whole lifetime preparing for that mission. In Holy Terror, Bruce has a sudden change of heart as an adult and decides to become Batman overnight. Sure, he was physically prepared, but he had no experience in detective work and much less in combat. For all intents and purposes, this should be the most amateur Batman ever. But anyways, he is Batman and he is out to get revenge. The whole thing ends up being a criticism of organized religion, but taking the topic to the less controversial world of comics. Here, the worst thing that the church does is the superhero conspiracy, where they capture all metahumans to experiment with them and use their powers in their favor. Basically, metahumans are subjected to humanity in the name of religion. In the world of comics, that is fucked up, and that's a perfect analogy to the atrocities committed in history by organized religion. Now, I'm not sure if a Batman story was the right medium to express this kind of criticism, but it works and some fans like it a lot. Personally, I'm just okay with it. As I said before, the concept sounds cool and interesting, but the execution was not as good. The story was illustrated by Norm Breyfogle, who was the main Batman artist at the time, and that's one of the few excellent points about the story. The art, for the most part, is phenomenal. The pages and panels are full of expression. The lines and the shadows work together to create a unique world, and needless to say, Breyfogle's Batman is still amazing as ever. And speaking of Norm Breyfogle, in the next episode we return to the main Batman comics, where we check out a couple of important moments for the Batman continuity. If you don't want to miss that, subscribe now and come back for the next episode. Until then, Godspeed, my friends.